Hello. Hi, it's Kimberly. Welcome to part 1. Today we're going to be talking about macronutrients. We're going to learn 3 things today. And number 1 is, what is a macronutrient? We're also going to learn how to eat your macronutrients in ratios for optimal health. And we're going to learn why those ratios are important to you. So let's first talk a little bit about the difference of a micro ratio and a macro ratio. You may have heard the terms. If you haven't, you may as you're moving forward, and so then therefore you'll know what they mean, okay? So we're going to be focusing on macronutrients, which is what I teach, because it's easier, it's a much more general and broad stroke of our ratios, and it's easier to do in a busy lifestyle, right? So we'll focus on micronutrients right now, just letting you know what they are before we move forward into the macros. So a micronutrient is the nutrients in each individual food source. So like breaking it right down to what's the nutrient in broccoli, or what's the nutrient in fish or eggs, like that. Okay, so it's the smaller of the nutrients broken way down into each individual food. Okay, so if you had to do a micronutrient diet, or lifestyle, you would be wondering how much nutrients is in actual broccoli. Okay, for the purposes of it being much easier on your lifestyle, I teach macro ratios. And so what that means is I'm just sticking that broccoli in a category like carbohydrates. And I'm simply worried about our ratios, macro ratios of carbohydrates, protein, and fat. Those are macro, right? The larger. So it's taking the bigger piece and not just saying what's in the broccoli, but what's actually just in that carbohydrate group. Okay? So that is the difference between micro and macro nutrients. Okay? Now let's talk about what a macronutrient actually is. So what it is, it's an environmental substance used for energy, growth, and our bodily functions. And that's it in a nutshell. So how does that break down into nutrients? I want you to grab a piece of paper and a pencil to write this down for future reference. So what that means is a carbohydrate equals 4 calories per gram. So if you have a gram of carb, it equals to 4 calories. A gram of protein equals to 4 calories, and a gram of fat equals to 9 calories. So what does that mean in practical application? If you pick up a food label and you're looking at the back of it and it says 10 grams of carb, 0 grams of protein, and 0 grams of fat, you should equal to 40 calories in that food product. And you can just do the math just like that. Okay? So let's talk about those ratios and what the ratios are, and why it's important to be eating in those ratios every day. So ideally, we're eating our foods like this: 60% complex carbohydrates, and we will get into the difference between complex carbs and simple carbs in the carb training video, but I'll give you a real quick. Complex carbs are generally fruits and veggies, and simple carbs are bread, pasta, and processed foods. Okay, so we want 60% complex carbs. We want 25% protein, and preferably it's bioreadily available protein, and we'll learn that in our protein video. But basically what that means is that your body is able to absorb that protein very quickly and release the energy that it's been storing for you. And then 15% good fat. Okay, now again, we're going to get into the fat, good versus bad, in our fats video training. But for right now, what you really want to stay away from is vegetable fats and margarines or fake butter, and steer towards natural alternatives like avocado and extra virgin olive oil and butter. Okay, so when I'm talking good fat. So that breakdown was 60% carb, 25% protein, 15% fat. Now you want to eat that every day in those ratios for your optimal nutrient absorption. Now it doesn't have to be perfect, because we're never going to hit these macro ratios perfectly every single time. It's just not going to happen. You'll pull your hair out of your head trying to reach it every day. And in every meal, it'll be even harder. You can base a day off of your macronutrients much easier than you can every single meal. But ideally what you're doing is you're looking down at your plate, and just by your thought process of what a ratio looks like, you're going to say, does that look like 60% of my plate is carbs, 25% is protein, and 15% is fat? And if it doesn't, then you need to mix those ratios around, okay? Because that's how we work best, our optimal health. This is especially key if you're trying to lose weight. This ratio right here will help you either or lose weight and or maintain your weight because it helps us with fat flux. And we'll talk about that in the fat video too. But so it's really important to do that every day, including your snacks. So one of the biggest mistakes that we make during the day is we just grab an apple or some carrots and we run off and we eat that, or a banana, and we don't realize that we need to be eating even our snacks in ratios. So sometimes after you've eaten a piece of fruit, maybe an hour later you're tired and you get burnt out because you really should have added some protein and fat to that. So if you added a handful of almonds with your apple, then you would have a much more well-rounded, ratioed snack. Okay, so you want to make sure that everything that you eat every day looks like that for the most part. Okay, now why is it important to eat that way? It's important to eat that way because if we're eating good versus bad carbs, we are not eating processed foods that cause inflammation and cause us to have that visceral belly fat, right? We're eating fruits and vegetables that are our nutrient storehouses. They are phyto-rich and they are helping us to flush out bad toxins in our system. Ideally, for your carbohydrates, you're getting only 2 to 3 servings of fruit and 5 to 6 servings of veggies, and no bread, pasta, sugar, cookies, crackers, chips, those kind of things. Okay, so complex carbohydrate, not simple carbohydrate. The second thing is the protein, 25%. Why is it important to get protein in every day? Well, protein is muscle building. It actually stores our energy. So when we don't eat enough protein, our body stores this energy and it won't release it again until it knows that we have enough protein, that we're starting to eat that again. It can start to absorb those nutrients and store that protein. It releases old protein or old energy from protein that it's turned into energy. It releases that into our system the minute we begin to eat a new source of protein. And then the third one is the fats or lipids. So contrary to what we've been taught, that we should be eating low-fat diets, what we should be eating is no trans fat diets or no artificial fat diets. We should be eating real fats that are good for us because it creates a fat flux instead of insulin resistance like carbohydrates do or simple carbohydrates do. It creates a fat flux. And again, we'll go into that in detail once we get to the fat video training. The nutrient levels in your diet every day absolutely matters. Counting your macros are impossible, but eating in ratios are not. Ideally, you're going to eat 5 to 6 small meals daily. Eat your smallest meal in the evening and have it be protein-based, because when we eat, our body stores energy and it's going to store that protein for us. It replenishes glycogen when we eat the heavier protein meal at night, okay? So when you wake up in the morning, you want to eat within 30 minutes of waking, and that's for a couple reasons. Again, we want to replenish that glycogen in our bodies. And after our bodies don't eat for 12 hours, it begins to fast. And what happens is it stores that energy back here again, and it won't release it. That's why when we get up in the morning and we don't eat right away, and we go to work and we still have our breakfast sitting on our desk, and then we're really, really tired by 9 o'clock, we realize we haven't eaten. Well, our body is in fasting mode now, and it is not going to allow any energy to be released whatsoever. It's going to store it until it knows that you're going to feed it again. So it's really important to eat that way. So I hope this helps you to understand what a macronutrient ratio is, why it's important for you to be eating a macronutrient ratios daily, and what it actually looks like. Okay, so I look forward to seeing you in the next video training, which will be fats or lipids. Same thing, we're going to learn about good fat versus bad fat, and I look forward to seeing you there. Now go out and make good food choices. Have a happy, healthy day.